Welcome to the very first video of this Warcraft Lore 101 series, where I'll walk you through all the pivotal story and lore moments in the Warcraft universe. Whether you're new to the game and you just want to know what's going on, or you're a veteran looking for a refresher, this series will provide you with a comprehensive look at all the lore, helping you understand the complex web of narratives that span across games, books, comics, short stories, and a whole slew of other crap out there. Hey, my name is Jin, and let's get started. As I record this, no one actually knows what really happened at the beginning of the cosmos. That's not going to stop me from telling you everything we do now. Well, according to Chronicle Volume 1, there are 6 fundamental forces that shape the Warcraft universe. Those would be light, void, life, death, order, and chaos, or fel as it's often called. But how did it all get here? Again, no one really knows, but we're told that in the beginning there was nothing but light. The entirety of the universe was an ocean of the holy light expanding in all directions into eternity. However, it would seem someone forgot to replace the batteries or whatever in the light because as the universe continued to expand, the light followed, but poorly. The light began to fade and leave behind pockets of emptiness in the universe that composes of all light. So if all you've got is light, and you leave behind nothing, what do you get? Well, nothing, of course, pure nothingness, just like the number 0. You get the void. Alright, now we've got light and void, all because the light didn't fill in the corner bit over there in the universe. And as things go, this nothing continued to become a greater and greater nothing until the nothing interacted with the light, or something like that. And the universe as we know it, or at least the primordial origins of our universe, sprang into existence in a giant explosion. Warcraft's very own Big Bang. Out of that explosion, all the building blocks of the rest of the cosmos came into existence, including the other 4 fundamental forces: life, death, order, and chaos. And after what is likely billions of years, stars, planets, and all that good stuff would take shape out there in the great dark beyond. Yes, that's just Warcraft's term for space. I don't know what's wrong with just saying space, but I guess high fantasy you have to say the great dark beyond. Anyway, now that we've got planets, it's time to talk about the one thing that's on everyone's mind right now. World souls. So what exactly is a world soul? Well, if you believe Chronicle, it's just a baby sleeping titan in a planet-shaped egg or whatever. But can we actually trust this?
The thing to remember about Chronicle that I want you to think about is that, even any history, even something that's as encyclopedic as Chronicle, is written from a certain point of view. And if you look at the history of Azeroth that was contained in there, and even what it talked about in terms of the cosmos and things like that, whose point of view would that have been from? Well, that's right, the Titan's point of view, and the people who worked for the Titan.
So, if Chronicle is written from a Titan perspective, or, let's be honest, a Titan bias, we can't take this part as gospel truth. What we do know, though, is that a world soul is a source of immense power that can give birth to a Titan, because that's what happened 7 times. The first Titan to emerge was Aman'Thul, and his compadres that he eventually tracked down because I guess he was lonely are Sargeras, Agrabah, Norgannon, Eonar, Azgaroth, and last and absolutely least is Golganath. These 7 Titans became known as the Pantheon. Each of the Titans possessed different abilities, so let's break those down now. Aman'Thul possessed the mastery of time, Eonar had an affinity for life, and always seemed more naturey than orderly Titans. Norgannon was a wizard of the group. Golganath was the lord of the skies and roaring oceans. A whole lot of good that does when you're walking through space most of the time, though. And finally, Sargeras and Agrabah just kick a whole lot of ass. The important point to make right here is that Titans are all aligned with the cosmic force of order. Their main mission of their existence is to order things, or tidy up a bit. Following Aman'Thul's direction, the Titans got to work ordering the universe by traveling from planet to planet, swimming through space or something, and fixing anything that was messed up. So what about the other forces? What kind of presence have they made in this new universe? Well, starting with the light, there are the Naru. They are the big, sparkly wind chime looking things that are just made up of the light. They're scattered across the different planets in the form of what looks almost like broken glass, but gold and bright. Well, these little light wraiths went all over the universe and just really love the light. Next up, we've got the void, and well, honest, since the void is a nothing, I can't really exist in reality because that's something. And how can you have nothing if there's a something? Well, the Warcraft narrative team isn't concerned about all that because the nothing has void lords, and I know what you're thinking.
Which is it? A something or a nothing?
Well, we're going to go ahead with the void is a something, because these void lords even have a name. like Dimensius, the All-Devouring. And how do you think these Void Lords feel if they could witness all this happening in reality, but they just couldn't interact with it? All they could do is watch these orderly titans walking all over the place without a care in the world. I'm guessing they're like super jealous because these Void Lords came up with a dastardly plan to spread their influence across reality, and possibly corrupt it all. At first, they just tried whispering in the Titans' ears about how they totally suck or something, but that didn't work. The next, they decided to corrupt a world soul and make their own Titan with Void and Blackjack. That's easier said than done, though. So, they conjured up as much energy as they could and just sneezed all over the universe, hoping some of that sputum would hit a planet that contained a world soul. Because once these void entities landed on likely countless planets, they became enormous eldritch horrors known as Old Gods. Next up, we've got life. And yeah, life started springing up all over the different planets in the great dark beyond. And of course, we've got death, where the once living things go to once they stop doing the living thing. More on that later. And finally, we've got disorder, or chaos, which requires a little bit more explanation. Out of the Big Bang, between light and void, came reality, as well as a few more realms, one of which was the Twisting Nether. This is another plane of existence where light and void bled together and created a volatile realm that is linked to reality, but existed elsewhere. It's very similar to the astral plane in D&D, but unlike D&D, this is where demons come from. And wouldn't you know it, these beings of pure chaos managed to make their way into reality and just started messing with the place. And guess what happened when the Titans took one look at the mess the demons were making? They were obviously pissed. But they still had to keep putting things back in order. But trying to order things while demons are still making a mess just isn't a winning plan. So they decided it would be best if they split up. Amathul, Eonar, Khaz'goroth, Norgannon, Golganeth, they kept doing what they were doing, while Sargeras and Aggramar got to work hunting down the demons. So, you remember when I said death is where living things go when they stop doing the living thing? What if the living thing came from another realm of existence? Apparently that means if you unalive a demon that comes from the Twisting Nether, their essence just goes back to the Nether. And in time, they would reform and go back and cause more havoc. Once Sargeras figured this out, he had to come up with a new plan. And after fighting against the Nether for several millennia, he figured out how to manipulate the realm enough that he created a prison for the demons known as Mardoon. So rather than kill the demons, only for them to come back later, he started locking them all up. And this worked. In fact, the universe was on the up and up now. Things were going great for the Titans. All that changed when Sargeras and Aggramar agreed to split up. Never split apart. And someone told Sargeras about the Void Lords. You see, at this point, the Titans didn't even know that the Void Lords were even a thing, or a nothing. Anyway, Sargeras was on patrol for demons when he stumbled across a world that had been fully corrupted by Old Gods. This planet also contained a world soul, too. So it would seem that the Void Lords were really close to getting their Team Void Titan. Sargeras was freaking out at this point, and he looked down upon this world and noticed a large group of Nathrazim, or Dreadlords, on the planet's surface, just basking in the Void's energies. Sargeras started the whole advanced interrogation tactics, and they told him what they knew about the Void and the other Old Gods. Look, the Void wants to devour not just, this planet, it wants to devour the entirety of reality. And if the Void gets its grubby little non-existent hands on this world soul, it will be unstoppable. This sent Sargeras over the edge. He knew that if the Void managed to corrupt a Titan and allow it to awaken, it would end reality as they knew it. So, he made the executive decision to chop the planet in half, killing the world soul in the process. This news also meant an emergency meeting had to be conveyed among the Titans. So, they all got together and Sargeras let them know what just went down. And the Pantheon's main takeaway from this story was, dude, why did you kill the world soul? That's like the one thing in this big-ass universe we're looking for, and you just killed one. Bro, WTF. This pissed off Sargeras even further, and he started spouting off, maybe existence itself is flawed. Maybe if you just wipe out the universe clean of life, it could come back clean. Eonar spoke up and was like, no. We're supposed to, protect life, not wipe it out. Well, maybe, Eonar, maybe. More on that later. Anyway, that's what she said. Clearly, Sargeras couldn't talk any sense into these idiots. They didn't have any first-hand experience with the crazy crap that Sargeras had seen. So, he stomped off and pouted for a ridiculously long time, and the rest of the Pantheon probably just thought he needed to cool off. So they went about their business. Well, that was until the rest of the Pantheon saw what old Sarge was talking about. One day, while Agamar was just doing his old demon patrol thing, he came across the planet of Azeroth. And this wasn't just any regular planet. It not only contained a world soul, but it was the most powerful world soul yet to be discovered. However, the surface of Azeroth looked really weird back then. In fact, it was completely covered in old gods. That's right, it was at this time that the Black Empire existed. And it was ruled by 4 old gods. Yasaraj. Is that how you say it? I don't know, it's a weird word. Yagg-Saron, Cthulhu, and N'Zoth. And honestly, ruled isn't really a great word for it, because the Black Empire was really more like the Black Empires, because the old gods were constantly fighting for dominance. In fact, there's quite a bit of evidence that there was a 5th old god, but was somehow defeated before Agamar found Azeroth, so they only wrote down about 4. So, anyway, one thing was true though. The old gods defeated all life on Azeroth at the time and enslaved them, which honestly wasn't that much in the form of all life. In fact, Azeroth was only inhabited by elements, or elementals, right? So there was fire, earth, water, air, all the ones that you know. And each element had a president, or leader, or whatever. There was Ragnaros the Fire Lord, Erzane the Stone Mother, Neptulon the Tide Hunter, and Alakir the Wind Lord. And sadly, all of them are now under the control of the old gods. So Agamar got the attention of the rest of the Pantheon and let them know what was going on. Hey, I found a world soul more powerful than any of us, and Sargeras was right. The Void is trying to corrupt it. Well, that got the Pantheon into action because not only did they need to stop the Void from corrupting Azeroth, if this world soul ever became a Titan, it would be the most powerful ally yet. But wouldn't you know it, Agamar had a plan to defeat the Black Empire. See, the Titans were a bit too big since their whole bodies are honestly the size of a planet. It would be as if I tried to climb through one of those Chuck E. Cheese playgrounds, but way worse. His plan was to have Khaz'goroth create some action figures made out of metal and stone to fight the old gods for them. And each of the Pantheon got to name their action figure and give them some of their powers. Amathul named Ra and Odin and was like, "These 2 are in charge." Khaz'goroth named Arcadus and made him a little builder guy. I gave him a little hard hat and everything. It's pretty sweet. Golganeth named Thorum and Hodir. He was like, "This one does lightning bolts, and this one goes because he's cold." Enar named Freya and was like, "This one likes plants and animals like me." Organon named Mimron and Loken and said, "These 2 are thumping good wizards." And finally, Agamar was like, "This one's a badass just like me. Check this out." And he showed off Tyr's kung fu skills. And these 9 Titan Forged were known as the Titan Keepers. They weren't the only Titan creations, though. They built a whole army of Titan Forged automatons to do their bidding and fight the Black Empire. And fight them they did. And here's a quick recap of this whole war. First, the Titan Keepers had to go up against the enslaved elemental lords because the old gods didn't want to be bothered. Honestly, fair play. Warm-up match for Team Titan. The crew split up into teams and went after them. It was nearly a flawless victory, except Odin took a hit to the face by Ragnaros, and now his face is just eternally melting. But it's cool though, because it's like a beard. However, they needed to lock up these elementals because you can't really kill fire. Doesn't really make any sense. So Odin had a chat with the other Titan Forge named Helia. She was an incredibly powerful sorcerer, and she was able to bind them each to the elemental lords of their respective elemental plane. Firelands, Deepholm, Abyssal Maw, and then the Sky Place. Doesn't matter. Where the Wind Gate goes. Alright. With nothing standing in the way between the Titan Forge and the old gods, that is except all the different horrible monstrosities that spawn from the flesh of the old gods, like the Akir and the Cathraxi. But that's okay, the Titan Forge have a job to do, and they were gonna do it. In fact, they were feeling so cocky, they decided to go after the most powerful of the old gods first. Ysarge. It did not go well. In fact, it went so poorly that Amathul, while watching from the bleachers up in space, threw a snow cone at the ref and ripped the old god out of the planet's crust. Now, I have to ask, have you ever seen what happens when you rip a tree out of the ground? Well, imagine that this tree was approximately the size of a small mountain range and you just ripped it out. You see, the old gods are a little bit like trees in that way. They burrow deep into the ground and they spread their tentacles out just like roots. Now, this old god was so deep that when it was ripped from the planet, it nearly killed the world soul. In fact, There was a chance that it could still die if they didn't do anything about the massive crater left behind that was still filling up with, in a sense, the World Soul's blood. However, the Titan Forge couldn't be bothered with that right now. They needed to take care of the rest of the old gods, but don't rip them out of the planet. In fact, just leave the old gods where they're at. The new plan was to build a prison around them, or else the Titan Forge might wind up killing the planet that they were trying to save. So that's exactly what they did. They defeated the remaining old gods and locked up Yogg, Cthulhu, and Azeroth. Before they could really celebrate, something had to be done about the crater Amonthul had made. Good job, Amonthul. Well, good news is the Titan Forge were able to stabilize the wound, and the crater became a massive lake that was filled with water infused with the essence of Azeroth. This lake was named the Well of Eternity. Alright, the Black Empire is now officially over, and it's time for the Titans and their creation to put Azeroth back on the path of order. And they did so by building massive complexes all over the planet. The two most important installations were the Twin Forges. The first one was the Forge of Wills, which was part of this greater Old War complex up in the north. This forge, just like its twin, served two purposes. First was to act as a method of replenishing the ranks of the Titan Forge by 3D printing more Earthen, Vrykul, Tol'vir, or any other Titan Forge minions. And the second purpose was to infuse Azeroth with cosmic energies. What about the other Twin Forge? Well, Highkeeper Ra, as he was known, as well as a large group of Titan Forge he brought with him, traveled south to build the Forge of Origination. So, just like the Forge of Wills, this one was also infused Azeroth with cosmic energies, but it's not a 3D printer. No, the Forge of Origination wasn't about creating, it was more about destroying all life on Azeroth if there was ever an existential threat again, just like the Black Empire was. There were also other Titan facilities built all over the planet, but we'll discuss that more later. What we do need to discuss really quick is what Freya got up to. It was her job to populate Azeroth with life, and to do so she crafted the Emerald Dream. Well, that's what Chronicle said, but that's not the whole story. In fact, the true nature of the Emerald Dream is still a bit of a mystery right now. But we can add a little bit of speculation in here, why not? Freya, as well as the Titan that empowered her, Eonar, had a relationship with the goddess Elune. And who's Elune, you might be asking? Well, right now, our best guess is she is a member of another pantheon, the pantheon of life. It would seem to me that Eonar and Freya knew about this realm because of Elune. And what they managed to do is to carve out a small portion of this realm, or life plane, and linked it to Azeroth. This plane connected to Azeroth became a blueprint for what Azeroth would have been without any outside influence. In fact, the Emerald Dream has been described as a backup of the world, which makes sense. If you got a facility that can destroy everything on the planet's surface, you'd have a restore point. And right around this time, the Titans felt their jobs were done here on Azeroth. It was time for them to get back to their job of trying to find other Titans across the cosmos. So, they let the Titan Forge buddies know that they were heading out, but before they left, Loken and Memoron worked together and created a perfect record-keeping system, the Discs of Norganon. Norganon? Organon. Whatever. These discs would keep a record of everything happening on Azeroth, so the Titans would be able to know what happened while they were away. And with that, the six of them went on their merry way, but not before they did one last thing. They put a little safeguard in place. They put a constellar named Algalon the Observer in charge of watching over the planet and warning them in case anything catastrophic happens. After the Titans' departure, life was springing up all over the planet thanks to the work Freya had been putting in. She had been fostering life all around the world where water from the Well of Eternity had flowed into. These areas were Sholzar Basin up in the north, Ungaro Crater kind of more down in the south, and even more south was the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. For now, though, we're going to focus on the race of primal dragons that evolved up in the north from the elemental spirits that were still left on Azeroth that hadn't actually been locked away in the elemental planes by Freya. These primal dragons even caught the attention of one of the Titan Forge, Tyr. We know that Tyr had been doing some experimentations on these primal dragons, but we currently do not know if Tyr had a direct hand in the creation of the monstrous primal dragon Galakrond or not. What we do know is that Galakrond drank from the waters that had been corrupted by Yogg-Saron. Yes, the old god was in prison, but it'll be a theme that the old gods managed to still do a lot from within their prisons. Anyway, after Galakrond drank these corrupted waters, his hunger could not be sated. He would continue to eat and eat and eat until he couldn't find any more food. And when that happened, he resorted to cannibalism. He just never stopped growing either. He got so big that his winds would damn near block out the sun, and if something wasn't done, he would pretty much consume everything. Tyr saw this going down, and he tried to warn the rest of the Keepers, but at this point, they were all kind of done with protecting Azeroth. Well, they were tired at least. They had defeated the old gods, and now they just wanted to maintain their Titan facilities. So it was up to Tyr to figure it out, and his answer came in the form of 5 other primal dragons: Alexstrasza, Ysera, Nozdormu, Neltharion, and Malygos. These 5 primal dragons were the most intelligent he had ever come across in all of his time studying dragons. So, he worked with them to defeat Galakrond. And in time, they succeeded, but not without some losses. Tyr's lost his hand and replaced it with a silver one. Other than that, though, it was a rousing success. So successful that Tyr proposed an idea to the rest of the Titan Keepers. Let's make these 5 primal dragons into ordered dragons. Essentially, his pitch was, look, if Galakrond had been left unchecked, he probably would have destroyed all life, and a lot of you couldn't be bothered. So let's delegate the day-to-day protection of Azeroth to these dragons. Everyone really liked this idea, except Odin. And even though Odin had been named Prime Designate by the Titans, everyone else just agreed with Tyr, and they went ahead with the empowered dragons and named them the Aspects, or Guardians of Azeroth. Alexstrasza was now the Dragon Queen and the Lifebinder. Her and the rest of her red dragons were in charge of protecting and caring for all life. Ysera, Alexstrasza's sister, is now known as the Dreamer, and her green dragons were in charge of caring for the Emerald Dream. Nozdormu, the Timeless One, and his bronze dragon were in charge of protecting the one true timeline. More on that later. Malygos, the Spellweaver, and his blue dragons were in charge of arcane magic. And finally, Neltharion, the Earth Warder, and his black dragons were in charge of protecting the world in all of its deep places. Yeah, it's gonna be a problem. Odin, however, did not like this. So, he decided to take his room. Seriously, he took part of Ulduar and just ripped it right out of there. And he had Helya make it fly. He figured he knew how to protect the world way better than a bunch of dumb lizards. And just like Odin, it's time to head out. But don't worry, we'll be back with another video explaining what happened with the dragons that didn't exactly want to become ordered, and a whole lot more. Like, what actually happened to Sargeras? I'm pretty sure you know. Anyway, we'll get that next time. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, or even tell me what I got wrong in the comments. And if you want more lore talking from me, you can check out the podcast I do with my co-host Allie, Live, Laugh, Lore. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. And with that, see you next time.